Everybody, welcome to City Girls Pod, and this is the show where we talk all things Sarah Jessica Parker and square pegs. And we are done. This has been really fun recapping this obscure old show, and it's just, you have to take some risks when you're a podcaster, and this has just been fun to do something totally out of the box, I feel like.
Yeah, it was such a blast getting to do this together. And I think we both got to see like the very beginnings. It's like a baby Carrie Bradshaw.
I know. Like in so many ways, Patty is a precursor to Carrie, because even in her fashion, especially in these two episodes.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's actually very interesting because Carrie Diaries, which like is the precursor there,
right.
You don't see a lot of, although I think that show was very well done and I really enjoyed it. This felt very like actually getting to watch a young Sarah Jessica Parker dive into the writing, and like really it was really fun to get to see her do her thing.
You know what was so funny is one of the Sex and the City fan sites was doing like a fan casting or whatever, and they were like, they should have Bette Midler play Carrie's mother, and just like that, and like everyone was like, her mother's dead.
So like, come on, did you not? Come on,
yeah,
this is canon, and people.
Like, I didn't know Carrie Diaries was the actual official canon here. And I'm like, absolutely. That was really
like
funny.
It's interesting where you're like, I don't know if it's canon, but also like, yeah, we'll go with it.
Yeah.
Why not? But then it's also like, well, I want to see her little sister then. What's up?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Well, there's so many. It would be fun if in just like that they had a little wink to Carrie Diaries.
Yeah. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Why not?
Yeah. I'm very interested to see what they serve us next season.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It is going to be interesting to see with Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes. Very curious how that's all going to play out.
And Noche.
Noche and Rose. Like, if Rosie's a love interest, I will lose my mind. Yeah. In not the best way.
You mean for Miranda?
Yes. I hope they don't do that. I just feel like Miranda, I want to see Miranda, like, again, professor type. Like, that's what she should be going for.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, it would be fun for her to do something like a little bit less predictable, in a way, like somebody like Che is kind of predictable for that kind of writing, that like the writers think they're thinking outside the box, but this is like exactly what everybody would think is outside the box, if that makes sense.
I completely agree with you. That is so on point. Like, I actually think what would have been super interesting is like a relationship with Che where it would have been like, oh, it's part of her queer awakening and they're going out together and like they're like each other's wing people, and then like maybe then a romance could have grown out of it, but it was so contrived, it just did not land.
Like, what if Miranda, and this is a total tangent, but what if Miranda met in like an Elle Woods type at the law firm that she's working at, that's like totally different than Steve, totally different than Che, somebody like just somebody that she might have been very judgy of.
I love that
in the past, right? Yep. And ends up being like super charming and really cute, and like that would be very entertaining.
I love that. And I also love the idea when you were talking about her being someone who she would have been judgy of in the past, maybe like a little bit of like an enemies to lovers thing where like they have this tension in the beginning and then all of a sudden they're like making out.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what? Because that would be so good. And like Charlotte would of course be like best friends.
Oh, 100%.
And that would be really funny.
That would be really cute.
Yeah.
And Charlotte, like, she's like, oh my gosh, I love this. I love this so much. Why didn't they do this?
Yeah.
They still can.
And just like that, writers, we're available.
Please call us. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I mean, that would be, in the thing, everybody involved with the whole Chase storyline are talented people. It just, when you're just trying to get a square peg, given, we're talking about square
Thank
pegs.
you. There we
When
go.
you're into a circle, when you're trying to get a square into a circle, it just wasn't working. It
Wasn't
just
working.
didn't work. And
No.
they kept trying and it just wasn't working. And
No.
so yeah.
Yeah, and they almost were like, oh, once we're going down that path, we're really going down that
Yeah.
path.
And
They
they
wouldn't stop.
just was nonsensical. It
Mhm.
was unreasonable for their character, for Che's character, to even be at all interested in Miranda. And since we already had established Miranda as a character and her relationship with Steve is something we actually cared about, it
Yeah.
just was extremely frustrating.
Yeah, it felt so disrespectful to that connection.
Yeah,
And also
it
the
was.
fact that absolutely right with Che, like I could see a world where Miranda, as she's having this like gay awakening, maybe being attracted to Che, but Che being like, "Oh, baby, no.
Yeah,
Like, no, I'm not for you, but like I see
yeah,
why you're intrigued by this."
yeah.
But yeah, there's no way in any world that Che would be attracted to
Yeah,
Miranda.
it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. Now we have the final episodes of Square Pegs. These aired in 1983. And the first one is No Joy in We. And it is a shame that we never got to meet our Guatemalan. That would have been
I know I
really
thought
funny.
maybe Rachel, but nope. Nope.
No.
We didn't.
This one is Patty and Lauren's pal, Johnny Slash, might help bring them popularity. His home run hitting streak attracts the 1982 Rookie of the Year, Steve Sachs, and other Dodger teammates. So, yeah, what did you think of this episode?
Honestly, like as I love the Halloween episode. I love the theater episode. Like I thought of the Quiz Bowl episode's really fun. These are all like my favorite episodes of the season. Honestly, like maybe it's because I'm not really a sports girly. This didn't do much for me. It was kind of funny and cute, but
this was very like spec scripty. Like you could
that's
take
a great way to
this
say it.
same script and work it into Full House, Mr. Belvedere, like a billion Who's the Boss, like any show that has had children characters, you could just replace.
That's a really good way to put it. It does read like
Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
Like any of these shows, you could. This is just like a spec script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Nothing about it felt like, oh yeah, this is like square pegs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. And it was kind of, I did think it was sort of a funny the line of the bad news. I've watched the Bad News Bears. I even watched Bad News Bears in Japan. I was like, what is that? Bad News Bears in Japan. It's a real thing.
Wait, really?
It's a real movie.
That's hilarious. I guess it didn't have
Walter Matthau in it. I guess it. And I've never seen it, but I just thought that was funny. That was a blast from the past. Yeah. Bad News Bears in Japan. And I don't know. In your high school, was there a big team that was like the the one they cared about?
So our football team was the winningest, they would say winningest, I guess it's a word, football team in the state. So went to a very like poor school. Like our school didn't have a lot of money, very like rural area, but the football team was everything. We would always win the state championship. Like we were really, really good. Did you guys have a sport that was like the sport?
As I recall, we were pretty good at like random stuff. Like I think we were good at like tennis and track and field and we really enjoyed our football team, but I don't remember that we were particularly good at it.
Right. You're like, we enjoyed it, but
I think we did well at soccer, but I always enjoyed just being with my friends, and so I would go to football and stuff like that, and I was on the swim team for 3 years. And so I, really enjoyed that. But, and we had I don't think that he actually ended up going to the Olympics, and I can't remember his name, but we had like an Olympics hopeful on our swim
you
team.
had an Olympics hopeful?
We did. Somebody who was training. I cannot remember his name. I don't think he ended up actually making it. I probably would remember his name. But that was, everybody was like, ooh, I should remember.
Was it for swimming?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a swimmer who was like really good, but
so cool.
I can't remember his name. But anyway, the big thing about Middletown High School, where I went to high school, was a couple of years before I had gone there, we won a national award for like a high school of the year or whatever national award. And that was like and it was very exciting.
You're like, here we go. Come on.
I don't think that we deserved it.
Was this for academics?
Academics, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good for you. We were not winning those awards.
But yeah, I mean, you take what you can get, right?
Right. We do what we can, please. We try.
But this is, I mean, Patty is very Carrie in this episode. She's covering the baseball team. She's interviewing. She's very excited.
Yeah, it's really cute to see her in action like this. And look, Sarah Jessica Parker, she's a star. She's always been a star. You can tell in this show she's a star. Like she's extremely charming and a very skilled actor.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's just got that charisma.
Yeah, she really does.
Mm-hmm. And, the interesting thing, and more in the next one, but I feel like they're usually in the like popular group, they're usually like token nerds.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem to be the case here. Like, they just seem pretty. And also, did you find it a little bit strange that all of a sudden LaDonna is in the cool crowd in these 2 episodes?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out.
Because I thought she was sort of on the outs, and then all of a sudden she's like super chummy with Jennifer and one of the cool.
Yeah, I was like, also the cool crowd. I think about Square Pegs, what feels strange to me is that like the cool crowd isn't that many people. Like it's not like this wall of like, these 7 uber popular girls who were so mean and then a bunch of jocks. It's like a weird. So it feels weird to me that it's like, why do you even care about what these people think? Because there's like 2 of them.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Like,
it's like the casting got smaller and smaller and smaller and less of it.
100%.
Yeah, as the season went on, I think. But turns out Johnny is really great hitting that ball.
Yeah.
For the baseball. And it was funny. He's like, I don't like things to do anything where people throw things. I mean,
yeah, he made me laugh. I was like, this guy's charming.
He really is.
Yeah.
It did make that line, though. It did make me remember one of the funniest lines in Clueless, wherein says,
yes.
I don't lie, do anything with balls flying my nose. There goes your social life.
There goes your social life. That is, there goes your social life is like one of the best retorts. So, gosh darn good.
Very funny. He says we can have a sandwich waiting for you.
It's so good.
Yeah. Vinny has the golden arm. And I do have fond memories of going to baseball games with my dad and with my grandpa. I don't have that many fond memories. My grandpa was a little bit of a curmudgeon. And that this one grandpa was a bit of a curmudgeon. But I do have some fond memories of going to baseball games with him. And I do think, even though I could care less about baseball, I do think the experience of going to a game is pretty fun.
I totally agree. It is like the great American pastime for a reason.
Yeah.
I think it's a really fun sport to watch and sort of like you're a part of. You're singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." You're eating Cracker Jacks. You're doing the seventh inning stretch. Like, this is fun stuff.
It's fun. Would you say, are you on which of the New York teams would you go to? Are you
I'm
Yankees?
A Mets girl.
Or Mets? Okay,
yeah.
good.
My dad and my brother grew up liking the Mets. My mom, and my sister like the Phillies because they grew up in Pennsylvania. But so I'm 100% Mets girl
Nice.
through and through.
Nice. At first, this team it seemed like it's a what do they call it? Not it was like intramural. It had both men and women in the team.
I was curious about this.
Maybe that was also a sign that they were low on casting.
People like, what is going on here?
In most high schools, women still to this day don't actually play baseball. Most women play softball. For some, I don't know why.
That's why I thought it was like really funny. I was like, what is happening here? What are we doing?
Yeah. I like Muffy. She says, green is not your best competition. Healthy competition is good for pep. Green is not your best competition. That was a good line there because Vinny's getting jealous.
Vinny's getting jealous. And I love how we have to protect Vinny's fragile ego at every turn in this show. Too. Like, okay.
Yeah. I like, do you think Barbara Walters comes up with her own questions?
That was cute. And it was also cute. I almost said Carrie Bradshaw, but Sarah Jessica Parker doing her little Barbara Walters impression.
Yeah. If you were a tree, what would you be?
It was great.
What would you be, Jax, if you were a tree?
I think I would be a maple tree. What would you be?
A maple tree. I think I would, of course, have to be a Christmas tree.
Oh, you would be such a cute Christmas tree. You'd have to be a Christmas tree. Yeah. You're so right.
Yeah. So Muffy's trying to get Jennifer on the pep squad. And I feel like that would be an easy sell. Maybe pep squad's a little too nerdy for compared to cheerleading. But I feel like Jennifer is just like, would definitely be a cheerleader.
Yeah, I do too. I do not understand the social dynamics at the school, I think. And I think they were like at this point being like, we don't know.
Yeah.
Either.
Yeah, I really think they were just kind of get all the spec scripts and we'll just change like Welcome Back Cotter to Square Pegs.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so true. They're like half of this cast is like having issues with alcohol, drugs, there's infighting.
Yeah.
Let's just get through the season and call it a day.
Yeah. So he becomes like this big name and it attracts the attention of Steve Sachs, who was the Rookie of the Year that year. And this is really interesting. I looked up about Steve Sachs and there was something called the Steve Sachs syndrome. This is interesting. He says that Steve Sachs inexplicably became incapable of making routine throws to first base in 1983, committing 30 errors that season.
No.
This is referred to in baseball terminology as Steve Sachs syndrome. The fielder's variant is Steve Blass disease, named after Pirates pitcher who suffered a similar breakdown of basic mechanics, also known as the yips. As his accuracy suffered, fans sitting behind the first base dugout began wearing batting helmets as mock protection. Teammate Pedro Guerrero, an outfielder, pressed into service at third base in 1983, once reportedly stated that his first thought whenever he was in the field was, I hope they don't hit it to me, while his second thought was, I hope they don't hit it to Sachs. By 1989, however, Sachs seemed to be completely cured, leading the American League in both fielding percentage and double plays. Isn't that interesting?
That is, it's funny because I've heard the phrase before, oh, I've got the yips.
Yeah.
I didn't know where it came from.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I thought that was really interesting. That's
fascinating.
Interesting how like mental everything in life is.
Yeah, you think about that, especially when it's like, obviously, like you have to be incredibly skilled to play a sport. But when it's these routine things that you should be like just like riding a bike and they're having trouble with it, you do wonder, like, yeah, you're exactly right. It's a lot of mental stuff.
And so much is out of even our control. You know, I mean, it's like the classic thing. They say, don't think of a purple elephant. Of course, everyone immediately thinks of a purple elephant. Like, you can't not do it.
It's wild. It's really wild.
If people tell you, oh, you have this, you can't throw to first base, it's really hard mentally to not be able to throw to first base, because you're thinking about it. You're thinking about throwing to first base, and you know, whereas everything else was just on autoplay.
Yeah, exactly. And then you really psych yourself out.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Factor Meals. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals this month with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/hallmarkies50 and use code hallmarkies50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code hallmarkies50 at factormeals.com/hallmarkies50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Definitely check out Factor Meals. We know you'll love them. So, I mean, that's why these athletes have to, you know, do these things over and over and over and over again. And the hope is that it just becomes second nature.
Yeah. You're just not thinking about it.
It becomes like part of who you are. I mean, and that's what was the whole interesting thing with Simone Biles this last Olympics, when she had, she dropped out of all these different events because she got this mental state. She just couldn't do it. And she's like, enough of a professional to know that like she would be in danger to herself, because her routines are so difficult that if you can't just like half do them, she would hurt herself.
Yeah.
And
that's a brave decision to make.
I agree. At first I was like, what? You know, it seemed kind of crazy to me that she wouldn't like just try. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, nobody knows her body more than her. So I do think it actually took some guts to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm glad that now she's back. And I think she'll be able to have a little bit of redemption.
Yeah.
Not that she needs it. I mean, she's like 15 Olympic gold medals or whatever.
No, but I think for her, I think you're exactly right.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. But I do feel like having the baseball players also felt very spec scripty.
It's I love the way you crystallize that, because I couldn't figure out. I'm like, oh, this feels generic, but the spec script of it all, like, you're 100% right. It's just like, okay, yeah, sure, we can slot this into anything. Nothing about this feels like square pegs.
Yeah. And so then we have the Mr. Donovan saying, like, you need to write about other players, not just Johnny. And so she's like, I don't know about that.
I have to.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure.
And then we have Johnny eating Cracker Jacks with the the Dodgers in his fantasy that he has.
Oh yeah, that was cute.
That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But Johnny cannot handle the away game. He's like, this
Oh my
isn't
gosh.
right. This isn't.
Yeah.
And I think it would be pretty clear at this point that Johnny is definitely a neurodivergent character on the spectrum for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, it's interesting because as we're learning more about neurodivergence and like seeing more representation in the media, it's interesting to think about how that would have been handled now, like
Yeah.
I think it would have been handled probably a little differently.
Yeah, I think
but
so
he's
too.
such a charming character.
Yeah, really sweet. I really enjoyed him too. And but he ends up striking out, and you get this fight between Muffy and Jennifer, which was kind of fun.
I love when Muffy gets her feathers ruffled, her knickers in a twist. Like it's just hilarious.
Yeah. And then you have Lauren asking Steve to the Steve's hats to the base the peps to the
yeah. That was it. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was fun. It was cute. She likes those older guys.
Girl
Lauren
is thirsty. And I just wish she would go for someone her own age.
I know, like Marshall. Bye.
Like, why not? Like, why wouldn't I still will not understand. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
She likes what she likes, I guess.
I guess so.
But girl, it would be so problematic if they liked you. Like,
yeah, I know. It'd all of a sudden become a totally different show. Totally different show.
Would.
All right. So then we have episode 20. This is the finale. And it did kind of go out on a whimper. It's not a great finale. No. But, oh well. What are you going to do? It's called The Arrangement. And it's Lauren's convinced that she and Patty have finally cracked the Wee high popularity barrier, but Patty knows the real reason behind their instant popularity and can't reveal it. So basically, in this episode, you have Jennifer and LaDonna, like I said, they're like super chums all of a sudden, have decided that they are going to befriend Patty because they want her to let Vinny cheat off of her in math.
Yeah, this was interesting because totally agree that this kind of went out in a whimper. This episode also felt like it could have been anywhere in the season. So, sometimes you see a series or a season finale, especially a series finale, and people are like, that was awful. That sucked. Yeah. I don't think this sucked or it was awful. I just think it was like, oh, that's another episode of Square Pegs. It's not even one of the better ones, but okay. Yeah. It just didn't feel like a finale at all. Like, I guess you and I were sort of, talking before this in other episodes, if they knew that this was the end, and it's unclear to me. It didn't feel like they were trying to wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's some sort of conclusion about the importance of being popular.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And some like conclusion to Patty and Lauren's friendship. And she says, I spend a lot of time around you. It's understandable that I'm gonna behave like you sometimes.
Yeah, that was cute.
And he says, I finally understand what they mean when they say these are the best years of our lives. When they get invited to the party. I don't think anybody thinks that the high school years were the best years of your life.
Well, and if you do, there's sort of a bit of a sadness to that.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, oh, okay. Like there were wonderful times in high school. Sure, but like, I hope I didn't peak then. Yeah, good glory.
Me too. I do think my college years were some of the best years of my life. I have extremely fond memories of that time. There were some hard times during that time. That was during 9/11 happened during that time. I lost my grandfather, not the curmudgeon one, the other one, in that time. And so there was some tough stuff that happened during that time, but it was just such a liberating time for me and such a growth time. And yeah, that's I think that more than I think of high school.
I completely relate to you in that. I think that's also for people like us who like maybe have like a sort of creative spirit or didn't necessarily fit into like the certain high school thing. Like I also felt like my most growth and where I was like, oh, I can just be myself was in college. I definitely felt that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's different. Like definitely different than being like, oh, the glory days of high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. You're just, I think that it's hard in high school because you want just being, I think it's hard being a teenager because you feel like you want to be able to make all these decisions. At least I certainly did. You want that freedom so bad, but you can't get it. And maybe you're not ready for it. Maybe you are. And, the world's not ready for it. I don't know. But I just remember that feeling of just being so frustrated that like, why won't anyone take me seriously? Why doesn't anybody care what I think? Why am I stuck in this sort of regulated experience when I want to, stretch? I want to go. I want to,
Yeah, you wanted to feel like you had agency over your life.
That's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because obviously like I miss things about childhood and miss people from childhood and like love being with my family and my friend. But like when people talk about like, oh, like the days of like, being a kid and I'd go back to being a kid, and it's like, no, I really like having control.
Yeah. The only time that I wish that I lived at home and, could be, could have that kind of experience again is when I'm sick. I'm
yeah.
Take care of me.
It is
when I want my mom.
That's very true because
you take care of me.
Like you want to lay there, you want to like have someone bring you soup, you want to have it, and it's very, it also is a very humbling experience too when you're sick and one, you have to take care of yourself, but also like depending on what's going on and you're like, I just have to like do the things I have to do, even if I'm not feeling well. Like it's not just like the sick day that we could take in school where you're like, yeah, I just have to focus on getting better.
Yeah. Especially, I think we've all gotten more responsible with that post COVID. That we try to isolate ourselves and things like that. But before COVID, I would just power through anything. And I remember one time I was trying to get on the press list. And so I was working really hard and just going to every screening that I could. I paid my dues. I worked so hard to get on that press list. And I was so sick, like and I should not have been going out, but it was a different time.
No, but we did it differently then.
Yeah. Like at that time, I thought that was sort of a, look how impressive I am. Like I'm going out to the screening when I'm sick as a dog and I can barely
100%. It was a badge of honor. No one was looking at you like two ways about it. Like
it really was. Yeah. And I can't remember what the movie was. It was absolutely terrible. It was by the This Is Us guy. It had Oscar Isaac in it. It was like Beautiful Life or something. I can't remember, but it was all these like different stories all meshed together. It had Antonio Banderas. It was terrible. And I fell asleep hard, hard. I'm kind of known for getting a little drowsy in screenings, but usually it's only like,
then
30 seconds
yourself
maybe,
awake, yeah.
Yeah. And I was gone.
Like the whole time. Like you were out.
At least like 5 minutes. Like it was a long, I was asleep. And and so after I sent an email to the rep and I was like, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I was sick. And
I was sick and I just
it was such a boring movie.
Your body needed it though.
Yeah, no, it did. I don't know. We're just so funny about stuff like that back then. Yeah.
Yeah, we really are. Like it is really a fascinating thing of like just like our bodies sometimes are like, nope, not doing this. We're done.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Merch Store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
What's interesting is Johnny talking about getting the Nielsen's rating. People coming to his house because, and I was looking it up, Nielsen ratings is still alive and well. It's still doing what they do.
I was actually curious about that. Okay, so it's still
it
going on, which is interesting because like the way we consume media is so different now.
And one time, I think this was when I was in high school, so it would have been the late 90s, we actually got selected because they
really,
yes, and which was very random because we hardly watched watch any television, so I don't know why we came up because you can't like request to be a Nielsen volunteer. It's just by their like demographics and their things. And at the time, they would give you a little box that you attach to your cable. Your cable into and now I'm sure it's all digital or whatever, but and they kept track of what you watched during that time, and that's how they would get the Nielsen ratings, and they still do Nielsen ratings to this day.
That's so fascinating to me, like the accuracy of that and like how that works. And it's like, okay, wow, all right,
they were probably like our family. They're like, oh, this one was a dud.
You're like, okay, we didn't get any data out of this.
Yeah, I mean, because we hardly watched any television. I guess the big television that I can remember was more like Nick at Night, watching some of the vintage stuff. My dad loved the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes with Jeremy Brett.
Yes,
that's the only television show I can remember my dad like really loving.
I think it's so interesting that your family didn't want like watch a lot of TV, and you're like a professional TV film person.
No,
like,
my parents don't understand it to this day. They don't get it. They don't understand.
They're like, how did she come from us? What? Wow.
And they are incredibly supportive, and I am grateful. But no, it's all kind of a mystery to them.
That's so fascinating to me because like most of the people I know that like got very involved. Like, I have a friend who he was just like obsessed with. He's a lawyer, but he wanted to be a film critic. Like he tried every avenue to do it and ended up being a lawyer. But he watched with probably consistently 10 hours of TV a day, like in the summer. Like he was just like TV, movie, TV. So it's so funny that your family was on into that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, my siblings were more also into it. My brother, he introduced me to quite a bit of television or movies more. He would introduce me to movies like Monty Python. That was something that and I think he introduced me to Holy Grail. I must have heard that movie quoted to me a million times. Something like Spaceballs, something like, just these classic comedies.
So quotable.
My brother and I didn't have very much in common growing up. We're very, very different in our sensibilities, kind of the way we thought about things. But we both loved The Simpsons. So that would be another funny thing. And like, it was kind of a big deal that my parents let us watch The Simpsons because it was seen as kind of this sort of counterculture show at the time, believe it or not.
We weren't allowed to watch it.
Yeah. I knew a lot of, especially my, Mormon friends, a lot of them weren't allowed. And the fact that it was on Sunday night was also
you guys were really
it was edgy. The boys say Muffy's voice isn't right for radio. She wants to do this like gossip kind of thing segment. And then Patty is struggling with this whole idea of should she let him cheat, and so she tries to kind of like trick him into studying, and I need your help.
This was so charming. It's funny.
It was cute.
did remind me a little bit, not quite of this, but I had a football player. I'm not going to say his name that would cheat off of me for English stuff. He was really good in every other subject, but he would cheat off me for English stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I do want to say that this gentleman is now a doctor, and he went to Cornell. He went to an Ivy League school. I did not go to an Ivy League school. So let me just say, I laugh when I think about the successful career he's had.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Sure.
Well, so much of this, the subjects that we do in school are completely worthless. It's all about like, how does it make you think? And so that's probably the worst part about cheating is not necessarily the cheating, but it's that you're like, because the answers do not matter at all. What matters is, are you learning these like skills of analyzing and you know, in math, are you learning how to think about these things, how to, you know, and so that's the problem than even the cheating itself, I think.
That's, I've never actually heard anyone talk about education and cheating that way, but you're exactly right. And I wish that we were sort of adjudicated on like how we're learning to think and like intellectual curiosity and problem solving rather than like,
well, I was always so frustrated because I did not test well. I always felt like I knew the material better than any of my classmates.
Yeah.
And I would be able to talk about it. I mean, maybe with the exception of math, but I wasn't great at math, but, I know I felt like I could hold my own in any conversation, in most of the other topics. And yet I would just not test well.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit of the dyslexia that I had growing up and things like that. But yeah, I think that I was always, I don't know. I think the problem is that it was just hard to sort of translate I think maybe I overthought it a little too much, you know. And my sister Anna, she was great at figuring out exactly what teachers wanted, you know, like
which is a skill set.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She was so good at that. And like just narrowing it down and figuring this is exactly what I need to study. This is exactly what I need to say. And I don't think that she was any smarter. I mean, she's very smart, but I don't think she was any smarter than me. But I definitely did not have that skill of nailing what it is that the teachers wanted. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Also, I wonder too if for you it's a little bit of this. I feel like I had this too. It's overthinking, but it's also like creatively thinking about some things and being like, wait, I don't know.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, and you kind of get yourself into a little bit of a like, oh, well, there's not just one right answer for this. Yeah. I mean, yes, math, I'm with you. Like that was not my thing. But for other things, whether it's like history or English, there's like room for, there's wiggle room. And if you don't know what your teacher wants,
it's true.
We're out there like, help.
So they end up all going to this big party, and LaDonna and Muffy are like, I can't believe we have all these nerds and Jennifer, can't believe we have all these nerds at the party, but they do. And I thought this is just like a little thing, but there's a scene in this where Lauren catches a piece of pizza thrown at her. Like, I was just like, how did you do that? And then not just.
I was like, girl, it's not like
pizza like, across the room.
Pizza.
I'm like, wow, I bet you that took practice.
100%. I was also like, really, we're in this final episode and we're still being like, fat friend.
Yeah.
Come on, you guys.
Yeah. Which is so ironic because they would make her wear the fat suit. And then they're making fun.
This fat suit that is it's like not a fat suit. You're like, okay, this is a chubby suit at best. Like, what are we doing here, you guys?
But like, it's just ironic that then you make fun of her for being fat when you're literally adding extra pounds.
Exactly. It was so upsetting. So upsetting.
And then so Johnny and Marshall show up. And Geeksorama are here.
Sure are.
And this is when Patty says, some of you must have rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
And I thought once they got to know us, they'd like us. And yeah, I don't know.
It's also like, do you like them? I mean, this is the whole thing
Yeah.
too. When people talk
Why do
about
you?
dating, when it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I want him or her or them to like me. I want them to like me. I want them to like me. And it's like, okay, you're so worried about them liking you. Do you like them?
Hmm.
And why do you want to be friends with these popular people? You
Yeah.
have friends. I understand how you would not want to be isolated and have no friends. That sucks.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I remember when I was in high school, because they'd always say, church, choose your friends wisely. It's such a stupid thing to say, but they would say that. And uh, uh, they would say that. And I would just be kind of confused because you're just friends with the people who want to be friends with you, especially when you're that young. Like, yes, if your friends are truly toxic, then don't be friends with them. Like if they're
yeah.
wanting you to be in drugs and like don't peer pressure is the thing. And I get that. And that's what they were trying to teach, I guess. But at a certain point, you're just friends with the people you have chemistry with. And
Yes.
and that's it. Like you
Yeah.
can't force it. And I remember when I was in high school, or middle school, I can't remember, but I remember this one time where people had said that at church, and so I was like, okay. And there's this, what I had seen is like the really good kids. Not that my friends were like bad; it was
No,
ridiculous.
but like
But yeah, these were like the straight A students. These were
yeah.
like this was the best group that I should be friends with, right? And I remember sitting next to them like a couple of days at lunch, and they weren't rude, they weren't unkind. It
Yeah.
just wasn't. It's just not there. Like the chemistry is not
We're not
there.
vibing. We're not
Yeah.
vibing.
And I remember my friends kind of looking at me like, what is she doing? Why is she doing this? And after a couple of days, I was just like, this is so stupid. Why am I not with my friends?
It's a wild thing to think about, like, and yet the messages that were sort of given. Was your school predominantly Mormon too, or was it like a
No,
mix?
because I was in Maryland, and so there were
Yes.
only like 5 or 6 Mormons in my high school.
Yeah.
And one of the girls in this group was also a member of the church. And so I think that was also part of it, that I was like,
Yeah.
okay. But no, I was one of the only ones.
Yeah, I was wondering if that influenced too, like feeling like, okay, well, I should try to connect with
Yeah.
other Mormon kids and
Yeah.
just feeling like it's like what you should be doing. Like
Yeah.
it's
Well,
a
it's
lot to
just,
take in.
yeah, it is. It's hard. It's a tough time. But yeah, I just thought that scene when she catches this pizza, I was like, wow, that was amazing to me.
Yeah, it also made me really want pizza.
I know. I really did.
Like, okay.
So there we go. That is the finale. And yeah, it kind of fizzled, these 2 episodes. So for really the 4 episodes, the last 4 episodes are pretty
Yeah, agreed. I think the only thing that like stands out, even though as we discussed, it was weird what was happening with him, but Bill Murray was just great to see him.
yeah, like a very bizarre plot, but yeah, it was fun to see.
Yeah.
So there we go. That is Square Pegs. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yes.
I really
Oh,
appreciate
thank you for doing
it.
this. This has been a blast to get to cover a show that like I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Yeah. It's just fun to think outside the box every now and
Yeah.
then and just be challenged. So let us know what you think of these episodes and of the show itself. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter, City Girls Pod. You can follow us there, or Hallmarkies Podcast. And how can people follow you, Jax?
At Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate it. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support us, and the merch store where you can get City Girls Pod merch. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.